Welcome to Podnutz, a computer repair podcast, episode number 240, Task Juggling. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. We answer your questions on running and operating your computer repair business. Call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Computer Repair Podcast is brought to you by Ninja, the simple-to-use remote monitoring and management solution. Try it free at info.ninjamsp.com/Podnutz. Let me introduce the co-host. We have John Dubinsky from the Maven Group. How you doing, John?
Locked and loaded, ready to go.
Awesome. Also joining us, we have Chris Carruthers from Remote Support Tech Team. How you doing, Chris?
I have nothing cool to say.
And last but not least, we have Tom Lawrence from Lawrence Technology Services. How you doing, Tom?
Doing great.
Awesome. Good to have everyone on the show. All right, Chris, since you weren't here last week, why don't you start us off with a tip or story that we could learn from?
Oh, what? You're just going to pick on me first?
Absolutely.
Fine, whatever. So big tip is keep up with your newsletters, but use your newsletters as your Facebook boost post. I hadn't thought about doing that until somebody sent me a message saying, hey, that last newsletter, maybe you should boost it. And I've gotten like 7 or 8 new customers signing up just through that for the newsletters. So yeah, that's my tip. It really gets it out there. And I didn't think that Facebook advertising would work that well.
Awesome. Good to know. A lot of people always ask that question about Facebook advertising. Very cool. All right, John, would you like to share a tip or story with us?
Yeah, 3 quick tips, if I may. First one is I've been doing a lot of backup reviews for my customers, just making sure everything's locked down, and ran into a couple that sneaked some SQL databases in underneath my radar. So I needed just a little application to grab those and back those up. And I stumbled back upon one that I used a long time ago that I really, really like. It's called SQL Backup and FTP. It's a great little program. If you're not very familiar with SQL, it's probably the best thing you can use because you don't have to worry about Server Management Studio or going into any of that to configure it. It's free to back up at 2 databases. You can get a lifetime license for $400, which is a pretty awesome price for a good SQL product, backup product. So SQL Backup and FTP.com is where you'll find that. So I thought that was really good. Another little tip is our friends over at Consumers Electronics Pro Magazine, CE Pro Magazine, has another really nice article about Arachnus networking products. It's more of a review article. So if you were thinking about getting into Arachnus networking products, it's a great product that talks about their Oversee platform and some other things. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And Jeff, last I found an article just for you that I'll send you the link and we'll put it in show notes. The article title is In Computer World, What's the Difference Between MDM, MAM, EMM, and UEM? So I'm going to shoot that over to you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just lost my lunch, dinner, and breakfast all at the same time. Thank you for that, John.
I thought of you immediately when I stumbled upon that article.
Stupid people. Anyways, I mean that with all kinds of love. I really do.
Hey, I read the article, and I'm still not sure what the difference between the four of them is. So.
All right, Tom, why don't you give us a tip or story that we can come back from?
Yeah, something a little bit better. But I will admit, I do like this SQL Backup and FTP. Great suggestion. That's so important. A lot of people don't realize how to back that up. Anyways, one of the things that's been really a great conversion tool for us, for customers, is creating some videos demoing some of the software that we might talk about them using. Specifically, it's been a lot of the camera systems we've been installing, and we created a series of videos on how to use the unified camera systems. And I will tell you, sending that video to the clients where they can see how the software works and kind of discussing use case scenarios with it, the customer goes, just how much and how much, when can I have this installed? Like, it's such a, they go from, I don't know, it looks cool, to watching a little 3-minute demo of me explaining it. And they're going, put that in. We've been putting it in restaurants and stores and a few other places. Like, we've sold quite a few systems. It turned into a lot of sales off of one simple video I made.
Nice. That's great. Now that was the video where you were standing in your store, right?
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, we'll definitely have to add a link to that in the show notes for that, so people can check it out.
Yeah, they don't realize they have that these cameras are that reasonably priced, and you can have audio recording. Restaurants are loving them. They're like, I can listen to the whole conversation. That's really exciting to the restaurant owners.
And to those of us that need a pastime.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better than YouTube or maybe even TV.
Yep.
So, this is stalking 101. No, it's good. You need that stuff in place anymore though, because it's always comes down to he said, she said, and people are not sure what's going on, and you only hear one side of the story. So this is great to have have that ability to monitor your place, especially for businesses.
Restaurants have been loving hating things like Facebook, because some people go on there because they want free stuff, so they complain about a restaurant, or they say something that someone didn't say. Your restaurant, your manager told me this, and they're like, no, they didn't. And when they have that conversation to play back, whole different story comes out.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
keep them honest. All right, so let's see. I haven't done a soldering a DC jack in a long time. I had one come in. It was on an Asus, one of these thin form factor laptops. And so I pulled it apart and basically had to desolder the jack. Well, for those that know, or maybe not, I have a hot air rework station with a soldering iron attached, which I suggest for people, especially if you're going to do any type of soldering. I used to desolder and solder these jacks with a Radio Shack $20 soldering iron, and it would take me forever and a day to do that. So part of the reason is when I'm putting solder back on, I'm only at about 250 degrees. But a lot of times to melt the solder that's already on there, I had to move it up to almost 350 degrees just to get it to budge, because of the different types of solders and different things that they use. So if anybody is attempting that, and I would suggest that you probably not do it on a customer's board, but practice desoldering and soldering some things on maybe junk you have laying around the house, old motherboards, old, whatever. And so you'll kind of get used to it. And I had forgotten that I had it kind of turned down a little bit. So I'm sitting there going, why is this stuff not melting? Well, I look over and I'm like, well, wait a minute. It's way too low. So I need to turn that up. And I was like, well, where do I turn it up to? I don't remember. So I would incrementally move it up until the soldering would, and I use a very, very good flux that comes straight from Hong Kong, but I got it from some distributor here. I'll put a link for that in the show notes too. But this flux basically melts everything like butter, as long as you have enough heat to it. So you paste the flux on, touch a soldering, tip to the soldering joint, boom, stuff basically almost falls apart, as long as you have enough heat. So anyways, that's my tip. Just double checking things as I go. Let's take a quick break, and then, and then we'll come back and talk about our main subject. Our show today is brought to you by Ninja, the remote monitoring and management solution to help you become more efficient, more productive, and more profitable. With Ninja, you can have a faster fixed response time and offer preventative maintenance to your customers. Ninja understands what you need to run your business, which is why their RMM solution is integrated with tools you use every day. Ninja provides competitive pricing, patch management, antivirus, email, SMS alerting. You can be up and running quickly with minimum training time. You have TeamViewer integration for that remote support. It's one solution for managed and non-managed clients alike. Network visibility inside the RMM, easy to read dashboards, which I really enjoy. A powerful device search where you can create custom queries and export the list to show your customers. An executive style report showing important system metrics such as health score, software added or removed, hardware changes, and TeamViewer connections. Ninja is offering Podnutz a free 30-day trial, and when you decide to buy, a 10% discount. Take advantage of this offer. Go to info.ninjamsp.com/Podnutz. All right.
Did you know that we use Ninja?
Yeah, I knew you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been using them for a while, haven't you?
Yeah. No, it's been great.
Yeah. To me, it's one of the more simple ones out there that I can read and understand, and it's not overly complicated. And even though they have, MSP in their name, that's okay. I give them a pass on that.
Well, they added a few months back. They added remote command line, and that's been a godsend.
Well, and I was, talking about that, I was a little late to the game in understanding that there is a lot of things that you can do on these computers that you're monitoring for your customers without even logging into the computer.
Yep.
You can send all kinds of commands to do the things that you need to do, get in, get out, done. I don't even have to look at their screen or anything. And so a lot of that stuff is really cool and makes life a lot simpler. Now you still have to go in and manage things and do things, but it's very simple and easy to use. So.
Yeah, remote command line definitely, especially when you have to repeat a function across several things. It's like just copy pasta into the remote command line, send and done. Don't have to log in.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Awesome.
How's their new third-party patching working out?
I have not seen that yet, so I don't know.
I am not letting go of my 9-night Pro subscription anytime soon.
Okay.
But that's not just a Ninja thing. I have not. Enable came close, but there were still holes. There's always still holes. So I don't think that we're going to come across a company unless they buy 9-night that's going to be able to get up to that standard.
Yep. And it all depends on what you're doing. I know, John, for you, it is a big deal. And I know you use 9-night Pro because you have a lot of endpoints that you got to take care of. And you do maintain some of that stuff. Now, I'm kind of going back to the other side, especially on the residential side, less is more. And so I'm not installing the things that I used to install. It's very few and far between. And for my managed clients, if I need to go in once every 6 months or something and update a handful of them or whatever, that's fine. But yeah, 9-night Pro, from what I understand, a lot of people, no matter what RMM they're using, is usually the way to go. So there's that. All right, let's go ahead and talk about today's subject. And today's subject is, how do you keep up with all your day-to-day tasks that need to be done? Now, a lot of us will get distracted and we'll sit there and be working on one thing. And remember, we have to do something else. And so we might divert our attention for a moment and move over to that other thing. And then we go, what was I just doing? So, the last couple of weeks, we've talked about different things, documentation and setting up templates and all that kind of stuff. But how do we juggle the things we do on a regular basis without getting distracted and keeping on point and getting everything done that we need to get done?
My first tip would probably start with Google Calendars. We are a G Suite company. All of my employees have calendars. We have not just a company calendar, but we share all of our calendars amongst each other that we have individually. It all starts with making sure all the jobs and where everyone has to be is logged in there, the date, time, everything. Because it also corresponds with, we double check to make sure we build everything that we had in there as well for all the on-sites. But that's, a lot of it starts right there.
So you kind of collaborate between you and your employees as far as Google Calendar and getting all that stuff in there. So everybody in the company knows exactly what's going on at any given time by just looking at the calendar.
Yes.
Okay.
And we also mention the jobs to each other because we kind of integrate with Slack with that. So for example, when my on-site wiring guys, and we'll bring up the camera systems because we did several of them lately, the guys that are on-site installing the cameras and the cabling, as each camera's live, they come down off the ladder, they grab their phone, they throw a Slack message, and they'll message the office going, camera plugged in on back of shed or whatever. And then my guys that are in-house will start turning on, confirming the camera works before he's pulling down the ladder. They go, that one's live, move on to the next one. So he doesn't have to go inside. So they're being tested and turned on like as soon as they're being plugged in. So it kind of helps their coordination, but that of course took some planning to get there. So, Kyle knows that Corey's going to be on site at 4 o'clock and Kyle has to be at his desk at 4 o'clock to log in remotely to which customer. And he just looks at the calendar to know which customer to log into. So it's kind of a coordinated remote. So my remote guys are sitting here. Then I have my installers and each one, and I have several installers working at a time. So each one of them just throwing messages in Slack around, and we're coordinating all of that to get it done. It's kind of fun to watch it all orchestrate and happen.
That's a pretty cool idea, really. I mean, most people will go in, they'll set a system up, they'll wire everything, get everything done, and then they'll turn on the system and test it. But you're testing it as it's as it's going in. That's awesome. Okay.
Well, and sometimes while they're up there, Corey will say, "Do I got to move the camera up or down a little? Up or down a little?" We just did a 5-acre trucking facility with a site-to-site wireless and cameras everywhere. I mean, there's a lot of cameras. So as he went from building to building, he would point them and watch my guys inside say a little left, a little right, and boom, they'd have them done and pointed where they want. So now you only got to get up on a ladder once, and you get a lot. It was 16 cameras to install, so that's 16 times up and down a ladder.
Yeah, that would be a lot. Yeah, that's for sure. All right, cool. I like that tip.
I'll add to that tip, and I also suggest if you want to stay focused or task-based, make sure you put on your calendar things that you might not normally schedule. So if you have documentation or things like that, you might want to set aside time for that so you don't get backed up with that sort of maybe off-scheduled time when you do have scheduled client work.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And I think with Jeff, just before the show, we brought it up. I mentioned this in some videos to do. My office is very uncluttered in front of me, and I don't like papers or anything. But I also turn off all my notifications. Like it's a combination of things. This is my block of time where, like you said, doing documentation, because you really want to get the documentation right. I want to make sure every little bit I have a mapping of their network or anything is very accurate. So if I start taking phone calls in between while I'm trying to type up a documentation or an invoice or something, there's going to be some typo in there. You don't want to pick up and start off. So I do mute my phone for however long, along with blocking it out, kind of like you said, it kind of put it in your calendar for it. Like this hour, I'm going to document everything we did at this client.
Well, I think you said it. I think if you Googled how to stay focused on a task or something, the first step you would see on any site is eliminate distractions. So yeah, I think that's gold.
Well, and it's funny you bring that up, because I always laugh, and I've talked with a few other techs about this. People will swear up and down, and I'll look at a Facebook thread and go and see how long, for how many days this person has been in here posting things left and right, and they swear they're so busy at work that they don't have any time, yet they're able to have a whole novel on Facebook. And I go, okay, somebody's lying somewhere, because you can't be doing both. And that's the problem. I think a lot of times those little distractions, how many times has a person sat there? I know I've done this. I get on Facebook just to check it. Maybe I should put this on my calendar and only do it at certain times. I'll sit there, and the next thing I know, I look up, and between, the parachute jumping videos or whatever I've ran into since I've gotten on there, I'll look up and I'm like, 45 minutes later, what just happened?
Yeah, cat videos.
45. Yeah, it's worse. 45 minutes of time gone, and can't figure out what I just did, and not even really sure that I enjoyed myself.
It becomes like an addiction, and it's really hard with social media, because I post a lot of it being business related, and but when you go on to post something business related, you're like, oh, there's 23 notifications. I can get through these real quick. Oh, look, I got tagged in another funny video. Let me watch it. It's only 4 minutes.
Exactly. I know, it's ridiculous. So yeah, and that's true. Anybody that's doing any type of things like with Facebook ads or anything in the social media, Twitter and whatnot, I'm sure they have a hard time of separating that. And I don't know how you solve that problem other than just forcing I don't know, maybe take your hand and smack yourself upside the head and go, I need to move on.
Just don't go outside of your company Facebook page, right? If you're working on business stuff on Facebook or business stuff on Twitter, if you don't leave that section and go into your own personal, then it's not really going to be that much of an issue. Not that I'm the best at that, but it is possible.
Yeah, but when those notifications are sitting there, it says 23, like Tom said.
Yeah,
it's just sitting there staring you in the face. And you go, 23 interactions. I probably need to check out and see what those interactions are.
And that's the one thing that we need to keep an eye on with Windows 10 when it comes to our own computers, right? Is everything has a notification setting. If I've got Edge open with Facebook logged into it, I'm going to be getting Microsoft Windows 10 popping up every single time there's a notification there too, unless you have that shut off. So, you got to take a little bit of time to do that for yourself, and make sure everything's on your calendar, right? The only notification that you really should be getting is, I have an important email from this person, or, hey, something is coming up on your calendar.
Right. All right. So what are some other tips that we can do to keep focused on a daily basis, because and keep everything organized to where we're getting everything done? Because a lot of people, one of their biggest complaints is, I don't have enough hours in a week to get it all done. And I would say that because I'm guilty of this too, we probably actually do have enough hours in a week to get it all done, but we choose not to because we choose to do other things.
I always find, what is it? The 5 Ps, piss poor planning leads to poor performance. So if I don't, plan out a little bit better, plan my installs, maybe plan for the next day, prep for the next day a little bit before the next day. Those are always the days that, the phone's off the hook, the ticketing system's overwhelmed, and I didn't spend 30 minutes the night before just reviewing the calendar, make sure I'm locked and loaded and ready to go. So I think if you spend a little time planning for your week, planning for your next day, preparing, that, you remove those unknowns, or a lot of the unknowns that happen to us each day, and then you can react just to total customer responsiveness, and not, take an empty box to a customer site without the switch in it versus the one that's on the other side that had the switch in it. So
that's a good question, though, too, as far as when is the best time to sit down and plan your day. I've read all kinds of things where they'll say that at the beginning of the day, when you wake up, you need to go and make that to-do list right there while you're fresh, boom, ready to go. And that's the stuff you tackle. And then you give everything a priority, and you figure out what you're going to do as far as what needs to be done that day, what could be done that day, but might be able to be pushed off to the next day. What do you guys do as far as setting something like a to-do list up on a regular basis, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever?
No, that needs to be done the day before. If you wait until that morning, then something is going to seem like it's more important than it is. And you should already have all of your customer appointments on there, which is obviously going to take priority over everything else.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of like he said, I generally, my customer appointments, I know what days I have to meet with different clients because they're all calendared, they're all scheduled, but I wake up early and start working on what I'm going to do that day. I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. and then I sit right at the computer drinking my coffee going, these are all the things, might be gapped in my calendar that I can fit in. Can I squeeze in a few extra sales calls? Can I do this? That helps a lot.
Okay. To both your points, some people are night owls. Some people are early morning risers. Some people are hybrid in between. So I'm not, and that's why I'm asking the question. I'm not sure when the best time to do that is, because from my standpoint, a lot of times I would think, well, I'm tired in the morning. But then at the end of a long day, your brain is so beat up. The last thing you want to do is think about what you're going to do tomorrow. All you want to do is go and veg, chill out, do whatever. So there's always that. When is the best time? And I guess the answer to that question would be the best time is when it works for you.
I'm a morning person, so I like to have everything laid out because, like you said, by the end of the day, I'm fried, I'm aggravated, or whatever. The day's over. I'm ready to not think about anything.
Exactly. I'm with you there. So, Chris, apparently, I know you're a night owl, though. You stay up late at night playing video games. Well,
I don't know what you're talking about, Jeff.
Now that you have a small child in the home, maybe not so much anymore.
Well, when it says that I'm in a game all night, it's probably because I forgot to close it.
Right.
No, okay, this is going to sound really weird. If your meals are not scheduled, if your personal time, not specifically what you're doing, but the fact that you have personal time is not scheduled, then you're either going to work way too much and not have any time to enjoy yourself, which is just going to run you into the ground, or you're not going to work enough and your plate's going to be way too full. Right. And, like you were saying before, right, there's all these people that are saying, oh, I don't have enough time in the day, but they're sitting all day on Facebook, posting on Facebook. Well, guess what? That's not your Facebook time. This is the time that you should be working. And if you seriously don't have enough time in the day to get all of your work done, and it's not because you're goofing off or not because you're taking personal time during work time, but it's actually because you have more work than you have time, then you need to hire somebody. And if you can't afford to hire somebody, you're not charging enough. So, there is a huge balance that a lot of people seem to have a lot of trouble with. I see it with my own clients. I did it too when I first got started. I had no time management skills whatsoever when I got when I got into business 7 years ago. So it's something that you have to learn, but it's something you have to work on a daily basis.
I think another important thing you mentioned, like as you grow and get employees, I have a staff of 8, and you become their time scheduler at some point too. As I've learned, a couple of them are much worse than the other ones at time scheduling, and we have to put everything in their calendar. But it becomes like you kind of have to schedule them. So you got to think more than about yourself. As your company gets bigger, you're going to kind of think of it in a bigger scale going, how do I slice up their time? And then I hired a manager this year to help manage the employees. So I wasn't the one doing that, because that now freed me up to this year's been me focusing a lot more on my video production and some of the other, my podcasting and everything else I got going on. But a lot of that was, separating yourself so it all gets coordinated in tiers like that. It's a lot. When you look at it, there's a lot of moving parts to the business, and you're like, wow, I've built up all these little things. But it's so important because all that scheduling that occurs is what makes everything happen.
Absolutely. Right. And a lack of time management when you have 9 people involved. I'm assuming that the manager is included in that 9, yep, if you include yourself. If you have 9 people that aren't keeping their schedule, or 9 people that aren't managing their time, that's a lot of money just being flushed down the toilet just because there's poor management. Yeah.
Because if you don't give them something to do, they'll all play video games. They'll gravitate to, hey, everything's done, let's go play video games.
Yeah. Why isn't Quake up and running, guys?
Yeah.
And just on the same topic of that too, as a solo tech, and even within managing employees, you have to avoid procrastination. So if you do have a little bit of downtime during your business day, pre-program those routers you're putting in and switches, and get your VLANs set up before you get on site, and do all that stuff to make your installs go faster and better. And, maybe at the back end of your week, you'll actually have some extra time to backflush or reload. So if you avoid procrastinating.
Yeah, procrastination. That's probably the #1 disease out there. And I know I was reminded the other day as I'm going to college that it reminds me of my high school days. I wait until the 11th hour to do my homework. I don't know what it is. And I have plenty of time to do it, plenty of time. But for some reason, it's like, I keep putting it off. No, there's other things to do. I keep putting it off. So, yeah, I'm definitely one of those ones. And even when it comes to working on certain machines, sometimes I'll procrastinate a little bit because I don't really want to tackle that right now. My mind, I'm just not in the right frame of mind to tackle this issue. So let me put it off and deal with it another day. And then you get to a point where all of a sudden you have way more work than you can handle. And you kick yourself because you go, if I would have gotten that stuff done a few days earlier, I wouldn't have all this stuff all at one time. Now that's weighing down on me that I need to get back out of here and get back into customers' hands. So that can be frustrating.
I always say, when everyone tells me something's going to get done sometime, or we're going to do that sometime soon, sometime isn't a time. And between customers and things like that. So can you do this sometime? No, I try to put a date on everything, a date and a time. It becomes, let me type this into my calendar. And I did it between my staff, or like I said, with customers too. They want you to do something sometime. Well, please put a time on that so it actually will get it done.
Right.
It's important too. Because when sometime comes up, it'll be when they decide, and that may not be exactly when you want.
Sure.
That's a good point. Very good point. Because if you don't, and kind of going back to what Chris had said earlier too, if you don't control your calendar and what's going on there, then you get inundated with all kinds of stuff going on all at one time, and you can't handle, very well what's going on. So then it's like, hey, grab the fire extinguisher. Let's start putting all the fires out, and it becomes just we get it done, but it's like under all this undue pressure that we really don't need in our lives compared to all the other things that we have to deal with on a regular basis anyways.
Yeah. And it's important too that your customers don't control your calendar. I mean, absolutely, they could have preferred times. That doesn't mean that that's the time that you're going to be at. And like you were saying, don't leave it open. 3 or 4 days ago, I had a client call me up and say, hey, on Friday, I want you to do some work for me. Oh, okay, no problem. What time do you want that done? And then on Friday at 12:55, hey, so I'm leaving in 5 minutes and I'm going to be gone for the next 4 hours. So now it's good for me. Well, no, I'm doing a server install right now. You're going to have to figure it out. So it's we need to set those expectations to our customers that they can't do that, but at the same time, if they try to do that, you really got to remind them, like, look, we need to schedule this because your time is just as important as mine.
That's good.
So besides Google Calendar, what other tools are you guys using?
Well, we're using Office 365 and Exchange, so we're using the Outlook Exchange calendar with the full sync. So we got it on the mobile and everything.
Does that work really well with Android?
Oh yeah, Android and Apple. I do have an iPad that I have for bashing my head up against, and it does work on that as well.
I've seen it work pretty good on Apple. I've had trouble with the sync on some of the Android, the calendar syncing. Mystery problems, resetting the phones or just deleting it, and calendar always fixes it. We have a few clients that are using the Office suite, and it's random, and it seems to be the same couple people all the time. I don't know what they're doing. They always have the same answer. I don't know a lot about technology. I know.
Yeah.
You did something to make this not work. I need to know what was the last thing you did?
Yeah, because I'd have to say that, if they don't have a really old Android device and they're able to get all of the the software updates, because I have a fairly new 1-year-old Samsung phone and it doesn't have any issues. All of my clients, they refresh their mobile devices when their contracts renew, so they always have new devices.
Yeah,
Now,
the majority of them seem to work. So
let me ask another question going along with what John was saying. As far as tools, one of the things I have tried to find a way to work, we've talked about all the different types of things you can use. Tom's talked about Slack and all these different communication tools, Google Calendaring and stuff like that. I am really trying to find, and I have not found one that works for me. So I'll preface that. So there might be a ton that work for everybody. I'm trying to figure out one that works for me personally. Has anybody found a to-do list that actually works as far as giving you the notifications, helping you to get those things accomplished, making you want to put them in the to-do list to get done? Because I can't do it. It's like
I love Google Keep for that.
What's that?
Google Keep.
Okay. And I've tried that.
That's what I used to.
And I've tried that.
What did you like about it? Let's have a therapy session.
Let me lay down.
Yeah, lean back. Yeah.
Do you use Outlook?
Yeah, I use Outlook on my desktop. Yes.
Okay. Have you tried using the tasks in Outlook?
Yes, in the past.
And that didn't work for you either?
No, a couple of
I'm
apps.
starting to think
I've
it's not
tried,
a technology problem.
It probably.
Yeah.
One of the apps I'm using right now is called Todoist, which I've heard a lot of good things about, and it's whatever. It's another app. Again, it'd be nice to have all these things all in one place that work well together, but that's not a reality. I'll be honest with you. My to-do list that gets done is one on a notepad, a physical notepad in pencil. I don't know what it is, but I would love to have something because, if I'm out and about or I want to remember I need to do something later that day, it'd be nice to have a list to look at. And
sure. Honest question though. Let's just pick on Google Keep since we got two of us that have used it or used it a lot in the past. What didn't work in Google Keep for you?
It's probably more the entering the information of what needs to be done that I don't know. I put it in. I know you can set up now with Google Keep, you can set up things like notifications. You can put times on them, correct?
Yep.
Times and dates.
Yeah, so you can put location on there. So when you show up at a location.
So I might need to go back because I use Google Keep for a lot of my notes on my phone.
Google Keep is now location aware. So for example, I can type in a grocery store, I can make a grocery list. And when I'm there at the store, it pops up as a notification on my phone because I was there, which is really kind of neat because I've used it for customer reminders and several times like, oh yeah, when I go to that customer's, I need to talk about this thing next time. And I remember after I leave, I'll set it. It doesn't have to have a time in it. But when I get to that customer location, Google Keep makes a notice on my phone.
Okay. Now that is cool.
And my employees use it because we have shared Google Keep. and they can actually set the notification up for me, put in, like if they have a meeting and a client, that when Tom gets there to notify him something, they can put it in there. Does it mean I know when I'm going to that client next, but next time I go to that client, they've set the reminder in my Google Keep with a shared one, and it pops up on my phone when I get to the client.
Now I like that.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. It's one of the reasons we do some G Suite training with some of our clients. Is one of the reasons we have so many G Suite clients is once you start getting used to all these little features like this, I kind of doesn't, to me, Outlook and all the other stuff's cool, but once you get used to working with the Google G Suite stuff, I feel like Microsoft's playing catch up with them.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I'm just, the only thing I like Outlook desktop for whatever reason, and I'll never be able to, and it's not even worth it for me to get everything to sync. Now, everything else, all my email accounts are all Gmail. So they're all synced on my phone on, as far as on the phone app side. And then, so I don't use the Outlook calendar or any of that stuff. I use my Google Calendar. So I use mostly Google for some reason. Now, I might change my tune on this. I like the desktop app, except that 2016 is not working as well as 2013. I have to refresh it a lot to get the stuff coming down from my Gmail accounts into Outlook. And I don't know why.
All right, I'm going to
broke some of the sync.
What's that?
The search functionality is a little bit messed up in 2016 too. We've been seeing a lot of problems with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to plug. I wasn't going to plug, but I'm going to plug. Jeff, do you still have the trial license that I sent you for our ticketing system?
Yes.
Okay. Try using the
No.
Well, this is why I'm bringing it up, because I never got an alert that your trial started. So I'm just assuming that. But there is a task scheduler set up inside the ticketing system, and it does integrate with Google Apps for your Google Calendar.
Okay.
So if you're looking, because you keep talking about you want to integrate everything, and the problem is you're going to be able to integrate everything, right?
Exactly.
But if you integrate it into your ticketing system, that's something that you're going to be looking at on a regular basis anyway, assuming that you're using a ticketing system the way that you should be, which is, tracking your work for the day, right? So give that a shot and give me some feedback on how that works for you. You just hit new and then task, just like you would with a ticket, except you're hitting task instead of ticket.
Okay. Now, as far as obviously for my ticketing system, I use a Repair Shopper right now. And the only thing that I set up on my Google Calendar that is synced and does work flawlessly is basically when I set a customer appointment from inside Repair Shopper, it goes right to my calendar, boom, and all the information is right there. And what I like about it is, Tom, going back to talking about alerts and location and stuff, not only will it pop up and give me an alert in my Google Calendar that I need to be at this appointment, I need to leave at this time in order to get there on time, but it'll say, do you want to go to driving directions? And I can hit the little icon and boom, done. My Google Maps is up and running, and I'm driving down the road, getting to the customer. So I do like that aspect of it. But
yeah, the integration of maps and the navigation, that my wiring guys in their vans, they have the suction cup mounts for their phone on the windshield. And it's nice because we'll just send them to their next appointments that way, and they just touch it. And if you use the full Google integration with the Google Now feature, or the Google Home, as I think they call it now, but it's that one slide over on the screen. It'll let you know your ETA to your next destination, and it'll automatically include, if you turn this feature on, which is really cool. If I say they have to be somewhere, it'll remind them if there's traffic and that they should leave earlier to get there. It does the route calculations.
Okay, I like that. But Chris, going back to you, yes, I will definitely give that a shot, because it's like anything else. When we're talking about juggling all the things that we have to do, we have to spend the time to input the information into something, whether it's writing it down, whether it's digitally putting it into some form or fashion of an app, desktop, phone, or otherwise. We have to be able, we have to take the time to do that. And that almost seems like something, there are things that are scheduled on the fly. And the other things, I think they need a thought process in time set aside to actually get that stuff in there, where you have a workflow going from the beginning of the month to the end of the month, and so on and so forth.
I think that's the same as your discipline on doing your documentation. the better scheduling you do, the better documentation you have, the better payback you have on all of that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, and you do need to equip yourself with the tools to be able to handle it too. I mean, you know, for on the fly scheduling, you probably have your phone on you, right? So I mean, it's
Right.
not like you can't just pull up the calendar and put it in there. It takes a minute, and if you get into the habit of doing that, it's done. Right. And then if you have your everything syncing properly, then you're going to wind up with, you know, that calendar entry coming into your ticketing system. So you can create a ticket on that later if you need to. Plus it should show up on your computer when you log into, you know, into Google and look at it there. Or if you log into Outlook and you have that set up. So, you know, but you have to train yourself to do it. And there is not a technology out there that is going to be able to force you to do it yourself. You need to do that.
I just want to use my mind and
Right.
just go,
But you can kind of do that because you can use the Google Assistant. I don't know if you use that or not, but you can.
Oh God.
I love the Google Assistant.
Go ahead.
I'll have it set reminders for me and things like that. And it works. The voice to text is really, really impressive. Occasionally gets things wrong, but it'll put a wrong word or a wrong name in there because it just heard something slightly different. I'm like, close enough. Because I'm usually driving is why I'm using it, and it works well for that. Because that's what happens. Someone will call me and say, "Can you come out to my office on Tuesday or whatever?" So you know, I'll hang up and I'll just hit the Google Assistant. You know, set a reminder for me to go to Bob's office on Tuesday, and it'll fill out that information in there. I've had good luck with it. It's gotten a lot better over the last few months.
Well, at least if you can get enough information to get it entered into your calendar or to-dos at a later time, or just so you know what's going on until you can sit down and react to it.
Yeah.
And as long as you know, have yourself set up so that you'll actually do it. And I mean, that, you know, it comes back to that again, right? If I take a quick note so that I can put something in my calendar later, that's fine. As long as I actually put it into my calendar later.
Correct.
yep.
Right. And so that comes back
But
to
at least you're halfway there. At least you got
Sure. Well,
versus-
this is for Jeff's you know, for Jeff's benefit.
Because, you know, I look at it as, you know, I have CRS really bad. So if I don't write it down or get it on my calendar, it's not getting done. So
Exactly. Well, and here's the other thing too. I have in the past, I have actually used Google Calendar 100% for putting everything, well, not everything, most everything that I do on a daily basis in my calendar. But it almost seems like then my calendar is so inundated with even just general daily tasks that it seems like too much information all of a sudden put together in there. So how do I,
just
you
can't
know,
make you happy.
what's that?
Just can't make you happy.
No, I would just want to be happy. That's exactly what it is.
What we need to do is we need to invent wetware so that we can just put a Bluetooth receiver onto Jeff's brain so that when he thinks that he needs to do something, it'll set up a calendar alert on his phone.
Oh man.
Which will then talk to his brain and remind him that there's a calendar alert that's popping up on his phone right now.
You know, the problem with that is though, you would see a list of a bunch of gobbledygook.
I would see nothing.
I'd be like,
The last thing that I want to do is look in Jeff's head.
no, you really don't. It's not a safe place. So yeah, I get, again, it comes back to, and I've gone back and forth on this, and I probably need to go, like you guys have talked about, take that time and do a to-do list or a calendaring to-do list or whatever at a certain time, whether it's at nighttime, which is probably not going to happen. And even during the morning time, getting up any earlier than 5 o'clock just does not excite me at all. So I'm definitely trying to find that sweet spot, but I know it's important. And like John has said, the more you set up, the better off you'll be in the long run. The problem is taking that time to set everything up.
I think it's, you know, creating the habit.
That's true. What do they say? 21 days to create a habit and keep it until you stop 1 or 2 days and you can start over again.
Yeah, I think you gotta having a routine though. That's actually why I hate vacations because it breaks my routines. They're not routines anymore; they're rituals.
Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it. I mean, really,
Yeah.
they are. It's like the things that we do on a regular basis. not only on a regular basis, but all the things that come in between. And I
Yeah.
guess, so how do you, if you do set up a to-do list or calendar, how do you, when something comes in that's not normal and has to pull you off track because it's very important, how do you all of a sudden switch everything around as far as moving things on your calendar, moving things on your to-do list? Is there an easy way to do that? Or is it just kind of one of those things where you've got to go in and manually do these things again?
I think that's the power of having a good calendar. It gives you the ability to do that because you can manage all of that by eye much easier than guessing. Oh yeah, I think I was supposed to be there at 3 on Thursday, but now I've got this, so I'll do that. I'll move my 3 o'clock to somewhere else, especially if you had multiple employees. I mean, I couldn't keep track of where I need to be, and it's just me. I can't imagine what Tom does, following around 8 guys. So
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Chasing them for billing is the hardest part. Did you invoice the thing you did is my
Really? Now, see, to me, that would seem like the easiest thing to do out of all the other stuff.
Well, what happens really is, so the job started out as 14 cameras. The client decided he wanted 16. 2 guys run down a camera. They just build the job as is. And I'm like, no. There's 2 more installs, 2 more line drops, 2 more cameras that got installed. And they're like, yeah, that's right. I said, I know. I seen it in the Slack messages. And I look at the invoice before it gets sent because we go through an audit process before we mail out invoices. I'm like, there was 2 more cameras installed. He's like, yeah. Now they only get paid based on what they install. So the contractors my employees would have only been paid for the 14 cameras, not 16 either. But either way, I would have lost money.
Wow. So that's kind of important. Attention to detail.
Yeah. But those little things happen. Changes of maybe more memory than when they originally ordered. It's trying to keep track of those is really tricky because some clients middle of a project want to add on to the project. That's fine. I don't tell them no, especially because it generally means expanding and making it bigger.
Right.
But making sure we invoice for it is really, that's where all those messages and everything kind of come through an audit trail of things like that. But I want to jump a little bit. Any of you guys using any project management software?
Just the ticketing system.
Just the ticketing system?
Yep.
yeah, my ticketing has project management in it, but I do not use it as much. No.
So we're looking at moving to open project. Part of the problems we're running into, some of these builds we're doing are taking 3 to 6 months for these build outs of these new offices. And we're doing the full IT infrastructure from the computers to everything. So everything has a whole series of order dates from starting with the cable till later when we start getting the servers ordered to later when we start, working with the office furniture people, and everything has different dates. There's no drywall, no walls. Now there's walls, but no drywall. So we run in that day. So we're looking at using some project management software. I think we're going to use Open Project, but I'll be documenting how that goes because when I'm done, I'm going to kind of make a video about using that because these big projects become very complicated to manage.
Yeah, and it sounds like you have to have something like, and that would be it sounds like a perfect scenario to use something like that.
Yeah.
Versus, because again, it's like anything else. There is a learning curve to learning that stuff and being able to do it efficiently to where it makes sense. But if you're doing something over such a long haul, that definitely sounds like something you got to do more than a document or a notepad or,
Well, yeah, because all the people, we've had to talk to the electrical contractors, the general contractor, the people doing the drywall and paint, office furniture people, and we need to know what days all these different components are getting delivered. And, a new office build takes, 1 to 6 months depending on the building for the build outs. So sometimes they work real fast and sometimes they don't. And then if they change dates, they forget to clue us in on the date change. So my guys show up to wire something. They're like, hey, Tom, there's no walls here to put wire in.
Wow.
No one told us they changed the date they were going to build walls.
So how do you communicate with all these different contractors to find out when they're actually doing this stuff?
We literally have to call a majority of them. There a lot of, once you get into the construction world, they're not as tech savvy. So there's not a lot of emails going back and forth.
Okay.
The furniture people always seem to have emails and the construction people do not. Like they have a Yahoo address.
Wow.
Yeah. We're like,
okay,
you're building out a $4 million office, but I send it to such and such construction at yahoo.com, right? And they're like, yep.
Have you ever heard of a domain?
Oh, it blows my mind. I mean, these guys have like hundreds of employees, equipment. They're building a damn building, a big building, a multi-million-dollar build out, and they have a Yahoo email address.
You know, I've talked to a lot of guys in the construction business, and their common answer to this, because I say the same thing to them, is, why are you using this email address? You know, and what's weird to me is it's very common for even some of these companies to actually have a website with a domain, but use AOL, Yahoo for their email. It's like, do you know how easy this would be to set up and make you look more professional? But a lot of them are so old school. They're just, you know what? I get more business than I can handle. I don't care. You're like, okay, well, I can't argue with that. Sorry. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of a legacy thing for them because they've had the same email address for 20 years. Like,
right. Yeah, but we recommend you don't use Yahoo, AOL. Yeah.
Yeah. We're looking at putting the open projects and complete web-based project management and for the vendors that are tech savvy, and we're going to include them in on it. We're going to have it hosted on our website so everyone will have a login, and that way we can help coordinate and see one place where we have all the information for all this. It's just, you know, it's a matter of keeping track of all the different names and players that are involved, because that's a big piece of it that you normally don't have in normal just break fixed or even MSP, is the list of vendors that are completely not tech related, but it's important to know whether or not the drywall guys are going to show up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't even imagine trying to keep, you know, a grasp on all that stuff going on. Well, yeah, definitely let us know how that works out in what's what you've learned from. Actually, does it make your job easier or harder? That's always the thing, right? We're going to do one of the two.
We've avoided it because we've simply used a series of spreadsheets, but I mean, the size and scale of project we're doing are getting pretty big. So we've been doing work with some of the automotives and things like that, and they change dates a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know. I figured I'd bring that up because you know all about that industry.
Yeah, it changes it changes on a day-to-day basis. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So is there any other things that we can talk about as far as how to better juggle our time to make sure that, I think we've covered a lot, and there's a lot of simple things to do. I think there's some things that take some thought process, and you've got to find out what's going to fit your schedule, work for you. But I think the theme is keeping something consistent and doing it on a regular basis. And I guess one of the things I've always done in a lot of different things is I will do something and maybe adjust it over time, or maybe do away with it and start something else just to see how that's going to better work for me. You know, there's a point where I will get to where I can actually go, this is working. I'm not going to change it because it absolutely just works for me unless something better comes along. But is there anything else that we can talk about as far as how do we keep the train on the tracks?
I think those rituals and habits, that's it, man. Just gotta, once you figure out what keeps you on the track, just keeps nonstop doing it.
All right.
And hopefully when you come back from vacation, you don't forget what you used to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And I'll go back to your problem, Jeff. You know, I think a lot of time can be wasted, although you might find a diamond in the rough trying out new to-do lists, scheduling apps.
Oh, absolutely. It sucks.
RMF. So just be careful you're not constantly searching for that magic bullet.
Yeah, use something that in somehow maybe make it work for your situation. Absolutely. Chris?
I mean, we've hit this horse so hard. That's not even the analogy. That's how hard we've hit this horse. And I think really what it's going to come down to is exactly what John just said. You know, you have to practice. You have to keep yourself into it, because all the technology in the world is not going to get you to the point where you're going to use that technology to keep yourself organized.
Right.
And really, if you don't think that you can do it on your own, I'm sure there's somebody out there that will happily, put you through therapy so that you can learn how to do this stuff, because some people need it. You know, some people need the extra outside help.
That's right.
Jeff,
how does that make you feel? Awful.
I think that talking about it is helping.
Yes, it's helping.
And
And next week, we'll
Anyways.
counsel you on using Outlook the way you're using it.
Here's
Next week.
but let me preface this by saying that I've tried to use webmail and I just can't, it just feels dirty to me. I don't know why. The app on my phone, love it. And that's why I use an app or a desktop app on my computer, because I actually like that too. I just wish it would sync a little bit better. So anyways. All right, let's go ahead and move on from there, and let's go ahead and answer some emails and take some phone calls. The phone lines are open, and the call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. And before we do that, let's take a quick break, and let's talk about supporting this show. If you guys want to support this show, I would encourage you to go to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. And I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for your continued support. One of the things we're looking forward to in the future is creating a secret Facebook group for all the patrons. And one of the other things that I might do, because I'm told that people like the same things every month. So instead of doing like I've done in the past, where I've done it's a per show, a certain amount per show, I might do just set up some tiers for the month, $1 a month, $5 a month, so on and so forth. But one of the things we want to do is we want to create a secret Facebook group where we can pull people in and, waste a little bit more time. No, but maybe talk about things in business, talk about the podcast. That's what this will be for, because there's a lot of other great groups out there that are for computer repair businesses that have a lot of smart people that will definitely answer questions that need to be answered. But this is just going to be for this particular podcast and whoever wants to be involved in that. So go on over to patreon.com/computer repair podcast, and I definitely appreciate it. All right, so we don't have any emails this week. So here's what I'm going to do. This is what I do. I make it up as I go, which is what I do.
Right.
So, Tom, is there any subject, since you are the guest on this show, is there any subject that you would like to touch on that we could talk about for a few minutes?
Well, documentation would have been a fun one, but I think you guys just covered that.
We did a couple weeks ago. Yes, documentation. But
love to hear your 2 cents, Tom, though.
What are you using for documentation?
We have a self-hosted wiki server that we have for documentation that we keep everything in. It's based on MediaWiki with a few custom plugins. I actually have a video, but I need to do an updated video on it because we've added more features to it since then. But we have a series of templates we set up, which we've also fine-tuned the templates since we did that. That way, whenever we have a new client, it's drop the template in, throw their all their documentation in each piece. We actually have a series of templates. So like, okay, do they have a Unify system? Here's the Unify template. Do we have what firewalls do they have? Here's the firewall template, and drop it all in there. And I'm really on my guys. And part of it was making it, we didn't have the WYSIWYG. I didn't want to use it, but then I don't mind command line type work and HTML tags. They didn't. So they won the war because they use it more than me. So, so we installed the WYSIWYG editor, but it's a great way because it makes it really easy. They're just, hurry up and edit this. So if they change a password, need a password, and we use Screen Connect is one of the tools we use. So we've actually integrated links right in the wiki to the Screen Connect session to launch each server. So now inside the wiki, we can launch the different servers with the passwords and everything right from there. So it's become a really time-saving workflow. Well, not just that, like even the camera systems. We put the link to the different camera systems so the remote viewer. So if the client needs us to log in remotely and change something on their camera system, all the links are right there. You can just click it right out of the wiki, takes them right where they need to be, and all the information's right there. And as they make changes in one tab, they flip back over to the wiki tab and just change things. Okay, I changed this camera or whatever, and they make a little note of what they changed. So it's become like very integrated into our workflow.
And what was the purpose of using something like a wiki?
I don't like the documentation not being on site. And I also didn't want a bunch of files. I like the fact that it's consolidated. It keeps very detailed per user change histories on everything. I can also contextually search for something. So if I want to know of a configuration that I did with a client, I can actually just search for words and the wiki can be searched in its entirety, because we also use it for knowledge. When we get a specific snippet of documentation, for example, we have a carpet company that uses this weird carpet software. I say weird, there's only like a couple companies that make carpet measurement tools. But we've got documentation on when the database does this thing, what needs to be changed in it to fix it. Well, we just threw that as an instruction set in a wiki that if the database has this error. So now some of this becomes an error repository for us in case someone else is using similar software. We do that for one client. If they had a QuickBooks problem, we know what fixed it. We actually will then document it in a wiki, and later we can search again for it.
Okay.
So it's really pretty slick. It becomes our own knowledge repository on a both per client, but also on a global basis for the company.
Okay. No, that sounds good. And that's always the problem, because I understand exactly what you mean by files. And a lot of times, if you look at documentation, for a lot of us, we'll have a file folder with several files in there tracking that. And it is a humongous pain in the butt. So I kind of like that, where you have everything that's searchable that you can get to quickly and get the information that you need.
Yeah. We also have file upload turn on. So as we make, if we make a change on a device, either from a firewall or whatever device it is, we'll download the configuration file and then we upload it to the wiki for that particular client. So that makes it kind of slick too, because it's real easy. Plus it has revisioning in it. So we can see all the previous versions from the very beginning of that client till present day of both the files that were changed and all the documentation that was changed.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So as far as, you know, we talked about the different things we do for documentation. But I like that. I like anything that's searchable. So that's definitely sounds like a way to go. And then you keep that on a server there at your business.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right. So let me see. Oh, and I must have clicked the wrong button. We had Paco calling in, and we'll get back to that.
You just hung up on Paco.
Oh,
You know you did it on purpose.
yeah, it was Paco. So I just said, you know,
Sales is another fun subject to talk about. You guys talk about that recently?
sales. Oh, upselling, selling.
Selling.
Well, it sounds like, so one of the things you've done, though, you've been able to create videos
Yes.
that are basically selling the products themselves, and you're just showing them to the customer. The customer's going, hey, this is a great way to do this.
Yeah, video I was shooting just before this started was a video on how to use the Chromecast as your third screen. And this has been a solution we've put in tons of offices, just popping in a Chromecast on their conference room monitor and showing them how to cast tabs, cast tab. A lot of people know you can use a Chromecast to cast specific applications that are running on your computer. And this has been kind of cool, where we've taken applications that are running, like, for example, the tracking ones. We have a couple of trucking companies, and they just threw a few monitors up in their dispatch area. They can cast all their maps of where all their trucks are, and then anyone can just grab and change it. It just acts as an extra monitor for them that sits in dispatch. So it's kind of like it creates dashboards for them off of the tools that they already have.
Okay.
So I'll have that video uploaded, well, after the show. So.
I have it done in a few minutes. It's not a big.
It's shot and edited. I didn't do the upload. I'm running out of time.
Well, in Tom, I think you're one of those people that you create, that need for people in the marketplace using the tools that are already there and just showing people how they can be used. And they go, oh, that makes sense. And that's going to work for what we're doing. Yeah,
we're going to be creating some tips videos. I mean, we've done one on Google Keep. We've done one on LastPass. And these are also tools to send the clients. They go, I'm not sure how to manage passwords. We just send off a link to them. We include it in a blog post. And those are great selling tools because they become easy entry into clients where you don't see them for a little while, but then you see them again and you can send them a video and it's useful to them. So it keeps you in contact with them. And we've got a lot of clients from that because they always share it with their friend who needed that. And of course it's me doing it. Our company logo is at the bottom. So it's always like, being out there and in front of them, keep us in front of their mind.
Right, exactly. That's very important. All right, so let's go ahead and we have a phone caller, and it is Paco LeBron, and here we go. Hey, Paco, welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody.
Now that Jeff didn't hang up on you.
Nope, no worries. I essentially heard you guys didn't have any emails, so I got I got a question here. I've been dealing with a laptop that had an Insider's Edition that expired on a user, so he needed a Windows reload. Now, it has a RAID with 2 M2 SSDs. Now, for whatever reason, I cannot get Windows 10 to reload. It hangs every time it gets to certain percentages in the gathering Windows files or gathering Windows installation files. Now, I tried different USBs. I tried different ports. Now, what I did was I went ahead and installed Windows 8, got that to go through just fine. But as I tried to do the upgrade to Windows 10, it still lags at like weird percentages. Like I just redid it now; it's at 49%, and it still stayed in the same spot. So not sure what's going on. I did test the SSDs. The SSDs looked like they were fine. There wasn't too much going on, and the RAM looked good. There's not really any overheating. It's not getting real hot. Not really sure what would be causing the delay or the slowness, or if that's expected behavior because the 2 SSDs are rated.
Wow. Anyone?
No, that's not expected. I'm assuming that it's a hardware RAID set up through the BIOS.
Correct.
Okay, this is going to sound really stupid, but it's worked for me once.
Okay.
Kill the RAID and switch the hard drives around on the physical setups that they're in and set the RAID back up.
Interesting. Okay.
Don't ask me why it would fix anything. It just did. So it's something to try.
Have you made sure the BIOS is on the latest version?
And the firmware on the drives too.
Yeah, and the firmware on the drives. That's the next thing. We've solved some weird Windows 10 issues with the firmware out-of-date problems. We had one of them that every time they rebooted, the volume would go to max. It turned out to be a firmware update on the BIOS that fixed it. So
okay,
there's weird little things that they've
Okay.
Windows 10 keeps touching.
So Paco, I think that gives you 3 different things that you can try and make this thing work. But yeah, I would definitely do at least the upgrading of the firmware on both the BIOS and the the hard drives. And then if that doesn't work, try Chris's.
That's usually, I'm always the last choice. It's okay.
Or do all 3 at the same time.
It's a consumer grade laptop too, so that's why I found it pretty interesting. Where this is the first time I've had to set up a RAID on a consumer laptop with the 2 M2 SSDs. Now, what I did also get to do was they needed to recover the data, and I was actually successfully first time RAID recovery. So that was pretty interesting there. So cool. I will go ahead and try the firmware update for both of those, and I will also try the BIOS update as well.
And then let us know how it works.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
All right, man. Appreciate you calling and asking that question. Thank you.
Good luck, Paco.
Appreciate you all. Thank you. All righty. Bye.
Bye. Oh, man. So I'm curious, as I'm thinking about this, why are we using RAID in a consumer grade laptop?
Games.
Before anybody says speed,
Yeah.
that's baloney, because the throughput on what we have in these motherboards and whatnot is nowhere near. So I'm trying to think what is the benefit?
Well, no, on mechanical drives, there is a huge benefit in using RAID if you're trying to do anything that's disk intensive. With SSDs, I am not really seeing nearly that much of a benefit on the speed so much as just having a larger virtual drive. So you're only dealing with one drive instead of two with, a residential customer that you're trying to explain not to mess around with the C drive.
Or I don't know who said it, but mirroring somebody, maybe that's a backup.
Yeah, if it's, I'm going to guess it's set up as a mirror, but I don't know.
But that takes longer.
Gives you plenty of speed, but I don't, like you said, I don't think that's necessary. But mirroring is good because when we've been seeing SSDs fail a lot now, they've been in the market enough that there's enough of them coming back, and they always seem to fail catastrophically. They just don't turn on anymore.
This is the thing I've said, and nobody wanted to believe. Everybody's like, "Oh, SSDs won't fail at all," and I'm like, I'm sitting, no. This is the difference. Go back to your spinning mechanical hard drive. This is analog. Now we move over to the SSD. This is digital. It's the same thing when we switch over the TV signals and all this kind of stuff. Analog, you can kind of have a little bit of a failure and still most of the time get the stuff back, no problem, without even sending it off to anybody to like a Drive Savers or something like that. In SSD, it's either working or it absolutely is not. There's like almost not zero, but almost zero chance of getting that stuff back. So this has always been my contention of, do I tell the customer that it's probably time to move over to an SSD because of speed? But if you don't have a backup and you lose all this stuff,
go back and listen to you find me one show where I told you that an SSD would not fail. Less likely to fail? Absolutely, I've said that, and I still say that. Will not fail is not something that came out of my mouth. Then, when you're done not finding that, then you can go find all the shows where you and I both agreed that we should be getting all of our customers to be backing up anyway.
Yep.
So the likelihood of being able to get your stuff back off of an SSD versus a mechanical drive, I don't care which one's more likely. You should have a backup.
Now, first of all, you must be feeling guilty because I wasn't even thinking about you.
Oh, no, it's always me to bring this stuff up. It's always me. Don't give me that.
It's like, why are you all flush now? I mean, come on. No, I was not thinking about you in particular. I was just, there are a lot of people. It's not, I hear it in the forums. I hear it in the Facebook group. I hear this stuff all the time. I've heard it for years. That these things, they're not going to fail. Or even if they're less likely to fail, here's what I say. It's electronic. Everything electronic fails. Absolutely.
Sure.
At one time or another. And so it doesn't matter if it's, a year from now, 5 years from now. I used to tell people with mechanical drives, if you can get past the first 2 years, that drive will probably last you 20. But it's getting past the first 2 years that's the problem. Most of the time.
In the laptops with our retail store, it's the fact that any laptop that comes in with a bad hard drive also looks like it's been abused a lot. Like,
yep.
There's definitely a correlation to whacked up, beat up case, scuffed and scratched to, I can't believe my hard drive makes clicking noises now. I'm like, yeah, you've crashed the heads a handful of times probably.
Wait. Are you saying that when I drop my laptop on the floor when I'm done work at the end of the day, that's doing damage to it?
You know what's worse though? You'll sit there and you will look at the customer in the eye and go, has this ever been dropped? Oh no.
Right.
No,
but the corner's like rolled up.
We had one screws in the case or anything. Yeah.
My guys popped the keyboard off and we're like, it's wet in here. Well, I didn't spill anything. We're like, well, it's wet in here. So, and they're like, well, it wasn't me. I'm like, well, you brought the laptop in. They go, well, send one of my kids. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to nitpick. I'm just going to tell you, this is a wet laptop. They get that.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
Like somehow if it wasn't their fault, they're not going to have to pay for it.
Yeah, it's wet.
You know what? I get it because nobody wants to be, made to feel stupid. And really, as good technicians and business people, our job is to try to not make you feel stupid. So, but they don't know that. So they're just like, oh no, I didn't do it. Oh gosh.
I'm with Tom though. I have had it recently where I've had some laptops come in with the complaint that they're just shutting off, and SSD firmware updates have fixed that just about every time.
That's a good tip right there.
Yeah, it's been a surprise to me that it fixed it. It just doesn't. It seems like if it was working, it shouldn't have stopped working. But an update apparently was the issue, and a firmware update magically solves the problem. I don't know. I just agree it works.
Well, and I think it's more important with the SSDs for however they're made to run versus the mechanical drives. Yeah, there was a lot of times there was the ability to update the firmware, but it was kind of a big pain in the butt to do it. So most of us kind of went, yeah.
And I never had problems that required to do it. But then again, the age of a mechanical drive, look how long that technology has been around versus SSDs are pushing the limits of an interface. So it's a little, I guess there's some differences there.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
We had 2 of our SSDs fail. I got 1 more failing. I'm not buying any more PNYs. They were in a RAID array, so they're not a big deal, but they were cheap. I'll admit that's why I bought them.
Yeah, I know. And that's, I almost go, it depends on what you're using it for. If, like in your case, you're not concerned about it, hey, if it fails, we just replace them again. But I still, even with the spinning drives, a lot of times, the customers will, if I've got to replace a mechanical drive, it's like you're getting a Western Digital Black or an HGST for, 2.5 inch for your laptop. Yeah, it costs more. I get it, but I don't care. I'm not putting anything else in there because I know that this is going to last you probably the rest of the life of this computer, which is going to be 2 to 3 years at least. And so it's nothing I have to worry about most of the time. So it saves me time, saves them time.
Great warranties.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, the warranties are a catch-22. I never, now I will send out and get a warranty on these drives and use it in something that's non-essential for myself, but I'll never put a warranty drive because you're getting a refurbished drive back that's basically been Frankenstein to death. And that's what's going back in these machines. For some reason, the US and Canada, we get refurbished drives. Everybody else in the world, they get brand new drives. I don't get it.
Canada, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's because the European Union has very different consumer protection laws than we have in North America.
Yeah. I know. It's frustrating. But anyways. Oh, all right. So I think we're probably at that time of the show since we've had our phone call and talked about a couple extra things here. Let's see.
Contest.
So Chris, before we go into and introduce everybody out, go ahead and talk about the contest that we are running.
Sure. So as a reminder to everybody who either hasn't been here for the last few shows or don't listen to me at the end of the show, we are having a contest right now. And the contest is to win some free months on our internal ticketing system. So you guys get to check that out. What we're looking for is an email from you listing the top 5 reasons why you use a ticketing system. And you can send those into, was it Podnutz at podnutz.com?
Yep.
That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. That's the one.
So get those in. You want to get them in before the end of the month. We're going to be reading over all of them, picking the best one, and that person is going to get the prize.
Awesome. Sounds good. So definitely get those emails in. I won't say how many we have, but you have a very good chance of winning right now. And that's partially my fault because I have not been mentioning it on every show. So yeah, just come up with 5 reasons and send them in. You guys are creative, so go ahead and do that. I'll be interested to hear of all your answers. All right. So with that, John, if you'd like to give people one parting thought and let them know where they can find you.
Mavengroup.net.
That was your parting thought?
My thumbs up was my parting thought.
Your lower third was covering it. We didn't see it.
There we go.
All right. And let's see if we have, Chris, if you'd like to let people know one parting thought and where they can find you at and what you do.
And what I do. So parting thought, just, I guess to kind of reiterate what I've been saying throughout most of the show, the only person who is responsible for your success is you. So go out there and make yourself some success. My name is Chris Carruthers. I am from Remote Support Tech Team. We provide white label IT services to companies like yours. So if you're looking for some extra hands, you can give us a call, 866-568-2813, or you can send us an email at info@rstechteam.com.
Awesome. And Mr. Tom Lawrence, give people one parting thought and let them know where they can find you and all your shenanigans at.
Parting thought would be develop these rituals that once you find the ones that work, just keep doing them, make it a habit. I know it sounds tired and true, but it works. That's why we keep saying it. Shenanigans can be found at lawrencesystems.com. You can learn about all the things we do in the vlogging and YouTubing and shenanigans that we have. So where we talk a lot about IT, train some people, and talk about all the products and tools that we use.
And also, if you ever want to, go check out some of Tom's YouTube videos and the crazy things that him and his crew does, this is the only time where I would say, if you need a laugh, go ahead and take a couple minutes, go watch a couple of his videos, and you'll feel so much better.
Yeah, we do some entertainment. Some of the more entertaining ones you can find on our my Facebook, Thomas Lawrence. I'm easy to find. And we've debated about creating a separate YouTube channel just called Lawrence Systems Shenanigans, where we, wreck things, blow things up. A video that's going real popular. We destroyed a RAID array with high voltage to show the redundancy of the RAID array and how you could kill it. We were ejecting memory out of live machines and things like that while it was writing, showing how the ZFS system works. So they're fun shenanigans, though. But it's also learning, because you hear these things are redundant, but you want to see it in action. So we just took old motherboards and ejected the memory while it was running.
Nice, very cool. Yeah, always cool to watch. All right, if you guys want to come join us, you can join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/Computer Repair Podcast Live. Join in on the conversation by calling in live and hanging out in the chat room. You can also send an email to podnutz@podnutz.com, or you can leave a voicemail on our call-in number, which is 1-888-697-0162. We have audio available over at podnutz.com, or subscribe using your favorite podcatcher. You can be notified when the show is live by subscribing to our YouTube channel, Computer Repair Podcast. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast.